I'm 16, female, raised solely by my amazing dad after my mum abandoned us when I was 2. Now she wants back into my life and brought up my siblings. I met her once, told her I don't see her as my mum, and now I'm being told I was too harsh. Did I do the right thing? I'm 16 now, and I've lived with my dad for basically my entire life. He has had sole custody of me since I was 2 years old. Full custody. No weekends with mom, no shared birthdays. Just the two of us. My parents had me when they were young, my dad was 18, and my mother was 20. From what I've been told and from what I've gathered over the years, my mother simply couldn't cope with the demands of motherhood. It wasn't that she didn't have support, my dad stepped up from day one, but she didn't want the inconvenience of being a mother interfering with her university life or her social calendar. So she left. Just like that. Walked out of our lives and never looked back. Not for birthdays, not for holidays, not for school events, not even a check-in call. My dad became a single parent overnight, a teenager with a baby, and somehow, he still made a beautiful life for us. I've never missed having her. People assume I must have some hole in my heart because my mom wasn't around, but I honestly never felt that way. I had someone who loved me, supported me, guided me, disciplined me, comforted me, made me laugh, and picked me up every time I fell, emotionally or literally. I had my dad. He is everything a parent should be. He's the strongest, kindest, most dependable man I've ever known. And he never made me feel like a burden. Not once. He gave up his youth to raise me, worked long hours, skipped social events, and made sacrifices that most people wouldn't even think about, all to make sure I was okay. He became both mom and dad, and he did it with love and grace. I'm unashamed to say I'm a total daddy's girl. Not in a spoiled, bratty way, I just love and admire him deeply. He's my hero. He's been my entire support system and my role model all in one. He's the reason I am who I am today. And I can only hope that one day I can be even half as good of a parent to my own kids. So, fast forward to now. Life was good. Steady. Secure. We were in our groove, school, extracurriculars, baking nights, Netflix marathons, all of it. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message. It was her. 14 years later. 14 years of radio silence. 14 years of never showing up for me. Suddenly, she wanted to reconnect. The message was full of what I can only describe as a copy-paste apology and a list of excuses. She said she was in a better place now, more mature, financially stable, and mentally ready to be a mother. She claimed she regretted walking away and wanted to give me the love and attention I've always deserved from her. She also let me know she had 2 other children now, 7 and 5, and hoped I could develop a relationship with my siblings. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. All these years, I thought I had processed the anger. I thought I'd buried the hurt. I figured I had simply accepted that she wasn't part of my life. But the moment I read that message, it all came flooding back, the resentment, the betrayal, the disbelief that someone could walk away from their own child and then act like it's just a matter of timing to pop back in. So I snapped. I told her to F*** off. Bluntly, with zero sugarcoating. I told her she wasn't my mother, she was an egg donor. A biological accident of timing, not someone who had earned the right to even ask for a relationship with me. I told her that no apology would erase 14 years of abandonment. That she doesn't get to play mommy now that she's done sowing her wild oats. Was it harsh? Yeah. But I meant every word. And honestly, it felt like a dam breaking. Like everything I'd pushed down over the years had finally erupted, and I couldn't contain it anymore. She hasn't responded since, and I don't know if she will. I haven't told my dad yet. Not because I'm trying to hide it, but because I don't want him to worry or feel like his efforts weren't enough. He was more than enough. I don't want him to think for even a second that I've ever longed for anything more than what he gave me. I know this whole thing probably sounds dramatic, but for the first time in a long time, I feel kind of shaken. I'm trying to understand why someone would just return. Is it guilt? Does she want closure for herself? Does she want to make herself feel better by checking the reconnect with my daughter box? I don't know. What I do know is that I don't need closure. I don't need her. I never did. My life is full of love, stability, laughter, and support, all because of my dad. And I'm not interested in letting someone like her back in to possibly destabilize all of that. But the thing is, the anger I felt, the rage that boiled up inside me when I read her message, wasn't just mine. It wasn't only about the 14 years of silence, or the birthdays and school plays she missed, or how I had to explain to my classmates for years why only one parent ever showed up. It was for my dad too. I know what he sacrificed to raise me. I saw it, even if I didn't always understand it fully until I got older. My dad didn't just fill in the blanks where a mother was supposed to be, he rewrote the entire definition of what it means to be a parent. And he did it alone, while she lived her life freely, unburdened, as if I'd never even been born. He missed out on college parties, early career opportunities, relationships, nights out with friends, all so that I could be safe and fed and loved. I remember watching him come home from his job with tired eyes and sore hands, but he always smiled when he saw me. He never once let me feel like I was too much or in the way. So yeah, my anger was just as much for him as it was for me. Because now, here she was, resurfacing like some ghost trying to haunt the peaceful life we built without her, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I wasn't going to let her make him feel like all those years of hardship and silent endurance might suddenly be reopened or invalidated by her guilt trip. I told her exactly that. I told her that she didn't just abandon a baby, she abandoned a young man who was trying his best to be a good father when he should have been figuring out his own life. And that the hurt she caused ran deep, not just in me but in the man who stepped up when she walked away. She doesn't get to just decide now, more than a decade later, that she wants to be involved. She missed that chance. And I told her something else too, something I've felt for a long time but never said aloud until now, that I consider myself the child of one parent. Because the other one, for all intents and purposes, has been dead to me for almost my entire life. I don't say that lightly. I know the gravity of those words. But they're true. And honestly, it felt good to say it. Not in a vindictive way, I don't need revenge or retribution. But I took a certain amount of pride in telling her just how amazing my dad is. I wanted her to know how well he did without her. That he didn't just survive, he thrived. That we thrived. And that we were better off without her chaos, without her narcissism, without her toxic version of love that clearly comes with strings attached. I don't think she expected any of that. I think she thought I'd be eager, curious, maybe even grateful. But all I felt was disgust. Maybe some pity too, but only in the way you pity someone who's clearly delusional about the consequences of their actions. The only moment I gave her even a sliver of civility was when I addressed the topic of her 2 other children, the ones she mentioned so casually, like a sales pitch. "You've got siblings now," she said, like that was supposed to be a gift. But I was clear, those kids are not responsible for her actions. They didn't ask to be born into her world, and I won't hold her failures against them. I don't want to meet them, I don't want to have any kind of relationship with them, and I sure as hell won't be guilt into one. But I also won't say a bad word about them. They're innocent. What I won't allow, though, is her trying to use them as emotional leverage. She doesn't get to drag them into this mess in some attempt to manipulate me. If she does, if she dares to involve them to try and soften me or paint herself as a changed woman, that's going to infuriate me more than anything she's already done. After I told her all this, I blocked her on everything. Every platform. Every number. I didn't want to leave a door open, even a crack. Because I don't trust her. I don't trust that this won't escalate. And unfortunately, neither does my dad. He hasn't said much, he's giving me space to process all of this, but I can see it in his eyes. That quiet, tired kind of bracing for impact expression I've seen a few times over the years when life tried to throw us curveballs. He's already spoken to a lawyer, just in case. He won't let her destabilize our lives, especially now that I'm on the cusp of adulthood. I hate that we even have to think about legal protection after everything we've built, but that's just the reality of who she is. She walks in, causes damage, and expects people to make room for her. Well, not this time. As for me, I'm trying to refocus. I've got my GCSE exams coming up, major ones, and that's where my energy needs to be. I've worked so hard this year, and my dad and I have been planning a post-exam trip for months now. Just the 2 of us. Somewhere peaceful, where we can breathe, relax, and celebrate how far we've come. 2 months later, and here I am, still feeling a bit rattled from what happened yesterday, but also strangely, calm. She's made a few attempts over the last couple of years to re-enter my life, but most of them fizzled out quickly. The first time she tried, it was through my dad. She must have found his number somehow, and she messaged him asking if he would pass along a note to me, some sappy, "I miss her so much" message that I barely remember the words to, just the feeling I had when I read it. I told him, firmly, that I didn't want to see her. Didn't want to talk to her. Didn't want anything from her. And without even blinking, my dad supported me. He replied to her himself, told her I wasn't interested, and asked her to stop trying. That was that, for a while. The most recent attempt happened just the other month. Only this time she skipped the buffer. She didn't message my dad. She found me. Directly. I'd like to say I handled it maturely and calmly, but I didn't. I exploded. There was something about seeing her name pop up on my screen, like a ghost from a past I never invited, that triggered this tidal wave of anger. I tore into her. I told her everything I'd been holding in since I was a little girl who used to cry wondering why her mum didn't want her. I let it all out. And honestly, I don't regret it. But, to her credit, after that blow-up, she backed off. She told me she understood I needed to focus on my GCSEs and said she didn't want to disrupt that. Then she asked, very tentatively, if we could meet up after I was finished, just to talk. I didn't answer her right away. I needed time. Time to think, to sit with the idea of possibly facing the woman who left me, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, completely. For the longest time, I was sure I'd never agree to see her. She was a wound I didn't want to reopen. I didn't want her apology. I didn't need her explanation. My life was full, with my dad, with school, with plans. She had no place in it. But something about her message stayed with me. Maybe it was the fact that she didn't push after I snapped. Or maybe it was the way she phrased her request, not demanding, not guilting, but just asking. Softly. Almost like she knew she didn't deserve it but was asking anyway. I don't know. But I found myself thinking about it more and more. I talked to my dad about it, of course. I didn't make a decision without him. And, as always, he told me he'd support me no matter what I chose. That I didn't owe her anything, but if I wanted to meet her, I should. That he'd drive me and wait nearby. No pressure. Just love. Always love. So, I said yes. We agreed to meet in a public place, a local coffee shop not far from the house. I picked it because it was familiar, neutral, and safe. I didn't want to risk being alone with her. Not yet. My dad drove me and dropped me off right outside. I asked him to stay close, maybe run a few errands while I talked. He smiled and said he'd do some shopping for our upcoming trip together, something we'd been planning to celebrate the end of my exams. When I walked into the cafe and saw her sitting there, I won't lie, my stomach turned. She looked like someone I might pass on the street. Nothing about her screamed, "Mom." She was well dressed, maybe trying too hard to seem relaxed and put together, like someone preparing for an interview. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but I didn't smile back. We sat down. I didn't want to waste time, so I asked her what she wanted to say. She launched into a carefully worded, clearly rehearsed speech, about how she spent the last decade regretting her choices. How she's grown, how she now realizes what she lost. How leaving wasn't because she didn't love me, but because she was young, scared, unsure of who she was or what kind of parent she could be. How she thought I'd be better off with my dad, even if she couldn't say it then. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I gave her the respect she never gave me. And when she finished, I said this. I understand that you were young. I can't imagine how terrifying it must have been to have a baby at 20. But my dad was only 18, younger than you, and he didn't run. He didn't disappear. He didn't choose freedom over family. He stayed. And he didn't just stay, he showed up every single day. He raised me on his own. He gave up everything for me. So yes, I sympathize with your fear. But I can't forgive your choice. Not yet. She looked like I'd slapped her. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't apologize. I meant what I said. I told her I didn't come there to forgive her. I came for myself, to say, to her face, that I'm not a victim of her choices. I told her I have a good life. That my dad and I are close, that we've built something strong together. I told her I'm not broken. That I never needed her. She cried. I didn't. The only thing I softened on was when she brought up her other kids again, a boy and a girl, 7 and 5. She asked if I'd ever be open to meeting them. I told her that I had nothing against them, they're innocent in all this, but I'm not ready for that. I might never be. And I asked her, gently but firmly, not to use them as a way to get closer to me. That if she does, I will walk away and not come back. Just when I thought I had made it through the most difficult part of the conversation, she pulled out her phone. She looked at me, a bit unsure, and said, they really want to meet their big sister. Then she started swiping through photos, pictures of 2 smiling kids, a boy and a girl, laughing in the park, baking cupcakes, holding up drawings they made at school. She showed them to me like it was the most normal thing in the world, like this was a casual, happy catch-up between a mother and daughter. And for a second, it broke something inside me. Because that was exactly the kind of moment I spent so much of my childhood daydreaming about. A mom who shared stories about her kids, a mom who proudly pulled out photos and talked about their lives, their quirks, their habits. A mom who'd cared enough to show up. I imagined for years what it would feel like to be a daughter someone was proud of, someone they knew. But instead, I was listening to stories about her other children. Children she stayed for. Children she loved the way I always wanted to be loved. It felt like a punch to the chest. I kept nodding at first, trying to be polite, but eventually I had to stop her. My throat was tightening and my hands were trembling slightly under the table. I finally looked at her and said as gently as I could, "Please stop." She blinked, confused. "Stop. I can't hear about them." "Not like this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's just too much." And it was. Every story about them was like a reminder of what I didn't get. Every smile on their faces in those photos felt like a shadow over the life I'd had to build from scratch, without her. I wasn't angry at them. Like I told her before, I don't blame the children. They didn't do anything wrong. They were just born into a version of her that finally decided to stay. But that doesn't mean I owe them anything. That doesn't mean I can suddenly flip a switch and be their big sister. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "I know this is hard to hear, but your kids, they're not my siblings. We didn't grow up together. I don't know them. They're strangers to me, no different than the kids who walk past me on the street." She looked like she'd been slapped, but I didn't back down. I needed her to hear it, and not through a softened, sugar-coated version. I needed her to understand. I think my voice cracked a little then. I don't cry easily, but this entire thing had been a slow build of years and years of things unsaid. I told her, "You're talking about your kids with pride, with stories and pictures, and that's exactly what I wanted my whole life. That's what I needed. And you're only offering it to me now because it's easy for you. Because you want to feel better. But where were you when I needed it?" She didn't say anything at first. She just looked down, silent, like she couldn't find a way to explain it that wouldn't sound like an excuse. And maybe that's because there isn't one. The rest of the conversation is a bit of a blur. We talked for a little longer, but I couldn't tell you every word we exchanged. I was emotionally drained, barely holding myself together by the time we stood up to leave. She smiled at me, warmly, like she thought something good had come out of all this, and said, "Thank you. Really. For giving me this chance to spend time with my eldest daughter. I hope we can keep healing, together. I'd love to see you again soon." That's when I had to stop her. Because it was clear she'd misunderstood everything. Or maybe she'd just chosen to hear what she wanted to hear. I took a breath and said calmly but firmly, "Please don't misunderstand why I came today. I didn't do this because I want to rebuild something with you. I did this for closure. For both of us. So we could finally say what we needed to say and walk away." She looked shocked. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but I didn't let her. "I'm not going to be your daughter," I said. "Not in the way you hope. I appreciate that you carried me for 9 months. I'll always be thankful for that. But being a mother is more than biology. And you stopped being mine a long time ago." She began to get rather emotional at this point, her voice cracking, eyes filling, shoulders curling inward like she was physically trying to hold herself together. But as much as I wanted to comfort her, to make it stop, I knew I couldn't let her emotion drown out what I still needed to say. I told her that, in my eyes, I only have one parent. One person who showed up for every scraped knee, every sleepless night before an exam, every school play, every moment when the world felt like it was crumbling and all I needed was someone to hold me and say, "I'm here." And that person was my dad. Only my dad. She opened her mouth, maybe to protest, maybe to beg, but I just held up my hand gently and said, "Please. Let me finish." I could feel my own composure fraying. My heart was thudding so hard in my chest I could hear it in my ears. But I held firm. I had to. Because this wasn't about being cruel. It was about being clear. "I need you to understand," I told her, "that I didn't come here today to open a door. I came to close one. I needed to say these things, to your face, for my own peace of mind. So that I can move on." She was crying then, trying to catch her breath, her voice wobbling as she asked me to please reconsider. To please give her another chance. To maybe just meet the kids one time. To not make this the last time. And that's when I had to say the hardest thing of all. I'm asking you not to contact me again. Or my dad. Her face froze, like it physically hurt her to hear those words. If I ever want to talk again, I continued, I will reach out. But until then, please, let me go. There was this long silence between us. Just the sound of her trying to breathe through her tears and me trying to stay still, hold the line, not cave. And it hurt. God, it hurt so much. Watching this woman, this stranger who gave birth to me, fall apart in front of me. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel victorious. It felt like breaking off a piece of my soul that I'd buried so deep I almost forgot it was still hurting. I'm not heartless. I'm not some cold, bitter person who doesn't understand how flawed and human people are. But people need to understand that not all stories get neat little redemption arcs. Not all wounds can be stitched shut with a few tears and a shared latte in a cafe. Some things get scarred over. Some things stay fractured no matter how much you want them to heal. By the time I left the cafe, she was still trying to pull herself together. I didn't say goodbye. I just nodded once, then walked out. My dad was parked not far away. The moment I slid into the passenger seat, he looked over at me with a softness in his eyes, no questions, no pressure. Just presence. I didn't even say anything. I didn't have to. The dam broke, and I started crying, no, sobbing, like I hadn't cried in years. He just pulled over properly and leaned across to wrap me in a hug, holding me like he did when I was 5 and had nightmares, or 10 and scared of losing friends, or 13 and overwhelmed by school and hormones and the chaos of growing up. He held me like he always had, completely and without condition. Later that night, once I'd had time to let everything settle, he sat down next to me with a cup of tea and told me that he was proud of me. That I'd handle myself with grace. That no matter what anyone else said, he knew that I had every right to decide what boundaries I needed to feel safe and whole. He's always been that way. Never pushing. Never guilt-tripping. Just standing solid like a lighthouse when the sea gets rough. And his support is everything. But, not everyone has been so understanding. When I talked to a couple of my best friends about what happened, I expected sympathy, or maybe just a quiet, that must have been hard. But what I got was more complicated. One of them said she understood why I was upset, but that she didn't think I should cut my mom off completely. Another told me she thought I was being too harsh and that people change, especially when they're young and scared like my mom had been. She said I might regret this someday. That maybe I should give her a second chance while I still can. I'll admit, their words rattled me a bit. Made me second-guess myself. Was I being too harsh? Too final? Was I closing a door that I might someday wish I'd left open just a crack? After that whole conversation with my friends, I asked them to change the subject. I just didn't want to keep talking about her anymore. I'd already given so much emotional space to someone who had chosen not to be part of my life for most of it. I didn't want to sit there and dissect my decisions with people who only knew the surface of what I'd been through. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't rattle me a bit. Their words lingered. And they left me wondering, was I too harsh? I keep going back to that moment, when she got emotional, when her hands trembled a little as she spoke about the guilt she's been carrying, when she accepted responsibility for everything she did, or didn't do, 14 years ago. No excuses. No deflections. Just owning it. That part stuck with me. Because people who mess up that badly don't always have the courage to say, I was wrong, and I hurt you, and I know I can't take it back. She did. And that matters, doesn't it? So yeah. I'd been second-guessing myself. Maybe I was too cold. Maybe I was too blunt. Maybe the wall I've had to build to protect myself from being hurt again is now doing damage of its own, blocking out not just the pain, but the possibility of any healing too. But then again, I also remember what it felt like growing up without her. How I used to sit at school and wonder why all the other kids had a mom at the gate, or why I had to make up stories about mine so no one would pity me. How I stopped waiting for birthday cards that never came. How I watched my dad give everything he had, emotionally, physically, financially, to make sure I never felt like I was missing anything. I remember the quiet sadness that came in waves when friends would talk about doing, mom and daughter, things like shopping together or baking. And how I'd smile and nod and pretend I was fine, even though inside I felt like something had been taken from me long before I could understand what it was. I remember learning not to talk about her, even with myself. Because if I did, it just opened up the ache again. So when I met her, when she cried and spoke of regret and showed me pictures of her other children, her real children, the ones who got the version of her that I never did, It was like being gutted quietly from the inside out. And that's the part my friends don't see. They see an emotional mother trying to reconnect. I see someone whose choices shaped my entire life, and now that I've grown into someone she's proud of, or curious about, she suddenly wants a piece of me. Maybe I was harsh. But I wasn't cruel. I didn't scream or swear. I didn't insult her. I just laid out the boundaries I need for my own sanity. For my own healing. For my life. Still, I won't lie, this has left me feeling confused. My dad noticed. He knows me too well not to. One evening not long after, he gently brought it up again, asking if I might want to talk to someone professionally. A therapist, maybe. Someone neutral, someone trained to help people untangle emotions that get knotted up like this. And look, I know it's probably a good idea. But part of me is still resisting it. I don't know if it's stubbornness or fear or just this foolish hope that once we've been on our trip, just me and Dad, and had a break from everything, I'll come back feeling lighter. Like maybe this will all feel like a closed chapter instead of a fresh wound. I want that so badly. I want to believe that the holiday will be a kind of reset. A chance to take a deep breath without the past clinging to my shoulders. And then there's the whole child support thing. So many of my friends have said my dad should go after my mum for the money she never contributed. 14 years is a long time, and my dad carried that entire financial burden by himself. Not just the basics, food, clothes, school supplies, but the extras too. Music lessons, new trainers, school trips, birthday parties. Everything. I asked him about it. I even said I'd support it if he wanted to file something. But he just shook his head. Calmly. With that same steady, patient tone he's always used with me. He said we're doing fine. He said chasing child support would only reopen doors that we've worked hard to keep closed. The court system is slow, exhausting, and stressful, and in the end, he'd rather spend his time living in peace than fighting legal battles that might not even be worth it. Because money doesn't raise a child. Presence does. Commitment does. Showing up every day, when it's easy, when it's hard, when it's heartbreaking, that's what makes a parent. And she didn't do any of that. So no, my dad won't chase child support. And I respect him for that. It's not about letting her off the hook, it's about choosing peace over prolonged chaos. He's done enough. More than enough. At the end of the day, I know how lucky I am to have him. Still. I wish this didn't feel so complicated. I wish I didn't have this weight in my chest, this gnawing doubt whispering that maybe I was wrong. That maybe I should give her another chance. Maybe one day I'll feel differently. Maybe time will give me a new lens through which to view all of this. But today? Today I'm still hurting. Today I still need space. Today I still feel like I made the right call, even if it doesn't feel good.